Chapter 11. The First Hills of Autumn. Tashi and I had both put on a few extra pounds, and for a variety of reasons, mostly financial, days out in the hills had become a diminished and infrequent luxury over the previous 12 months. Diminished motivation played a part too. Completing the Munros had been a focus for so long, and without them my sloth tendencies were beginning to manifest themselves again. Seen from Muir Kirk, Cairn Table at a respectable 593 metres, dominates the horizon, and reputedly on a clear day from the summit you will enjoy superb views of Arran, the Galloway Hills, and even the distant Lakeland Fell. Being a weekday, we had no problem finding a spot in the car park at Kames, and we also had the hill to ourselves. Given our current conditioning, this was desirable, as there would be no onlookers to witness our sorry physical state. I find nothing to recommend about growing old. It's all bad.
Speak for yourself, mountain boy. I'm in prime condition, as per usual. By the way, I hope you brought some of those tasty chicken wraps I like.
No, afraid not, Tashi. It's egg mayonnaise on pan bread today.
Oh, I hope you brought my doggy donut crap then.
The route upwards is entirely obvious. A badly eroded trench masquerading as a path leads all the way up from Kames to the summit, which lies about 3 kilometres away. Apparently, this path can sometimes be very muddy, but a recent dry spell has scorched the ground, and we are spared the potential unpleasantness of the more common quagmire conditions generally on offer. Tashi's coat is pretty full at the moment. Mud and heather are not a good combination, and our regular groomer has a bad back.
Oh, that's a crying shame, so it is. I cannae stand the groomers. She tried to perfume me the last time. And don't even think about having my toenails started up with yon cherry blossom glitter polish. Who does that to their dogs, eh?
You need have no worries on that score, Tashi.
And slow down a bit. We need to pace ourselves here. Oh, come on, two legs. You're like a geriatric fat boy staggering about back there in the rear and pretending to take photos. What a sorry state. And I used to have high hopes for you.
Join the club, Tashi. You're not the first to express such sentiments. A gym teacher once described me as an enthusiastic plodder.
Ho, 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 that must have hurt.
The heather is beginning to bloom across the hillside in a purple haze, and above us pale blue skies are dotted with giant puffs of cumuli, cruising serenely and casting huge shadows across the land. Tashi celebrated his 9th birthday back in May, and is now officially an older dog. As usual, he is leading the way upwards, but despite his canine bravado, not with his usual vigour. The day is already warm, so a steady plod is definitely called for. Unusually for a dog, Tashi can have an epileptic seizure while exercising, and heat and bright light can sometimes be a trigger. The carefree days of our spring and autumn hills are behind us. At first the epilepsy was something that didn't intrude on our lifestyle, but lately it has become much more of a consideration, and I have to be ever watchful. Tashi will usually tell me he's just about to seize by licking my face profusely, but I will see signs of its coming long before that. For the next hour or so we plod our way upwards, towards the huge summit cairn that has been visible since the start of the route. Tashi naturally doesn't stick to the path, and enjoys himself bouncing about in the heather, and I get a great picture of him. We take a shade under 2 hours to reach the top, and Tashi is of course first to achieve the huge stupa-like cairn. He is dwarfed by it, and circles it counterclockwise, like the good wee bompo he is. We spend a good 2 hours loafing about on the summit, and the thought of extending the route further doesn't even arise. As we are about to leave, a woman arrives, and is immediately taken in by Tashy's cute wee guy act. I know he's hoping to secure a tasty morsel, and if that isn't forthcoming, Mr. Hyde will make himself known. And sure enough he does, with a bout of indignant barking when the strange human tries to pet him.
Hey, get your paws off me, hen!
That's enough, Tashy. Is he not friendly then? I smile weakly at her, and then we slink off, Tashy barking like a banshee, and me trying to become invisible. Apsos are very wary of strangers, and my boy has this prized breed trait in overabundance. He will shy away and bark if someone is too familiar, and doesn't realise that they are in the presence of royalty, and to him we humans are just staff to be put in their place.
Aye, I'm just choosy about who I allow to pat me. Always have been, and always will be. Besides, I'm a one-man dog, and I chose you, mountain boy.
Tashy lags behind me in the descent. The day has warmed further, and his jet black coat soaks up the heat. As we near the sanctuary of the parked car, Tashy is stopping frequently for rest, and I think about carrying him, but he's a bit too heavy for that these days. When he is stretched out on the back seat and snoring soundly, I relax. He won't seize now. I start the engine and head for home. A thirsty day for Tashy in the Pentland Hills. Scotland were playing a Rugby World Cup quarter-final later in the day, so departure preparations had been hurried, and this led to an omission that could have had potentially serious consequences for Tashy. This was my first ever trip into the Pentland Hills, although they have been part of my internal narrative since my days at drama school. Almost wherever you are in the Scottish capital, there is a view to be had of the Pentland Hills, but I knew next to nothing about them, and I barely remembered visiting them on a student trip to gather exotic fungi. West Kip is without doubt the shapeliest of the Pentland Hills, and its fine conical profile draws the eye. The route from 9 Mile Burn rises gently towards Cap Law at 479 metres on the Monk's Rig, and around the halfway mark the curious font stone is reached. Apparently this circular stone was once the base for a medieval cross, and the tradition is to deposit a coin or two in its hollow. Tashy looks like he's about to lift his leg, so I drag him away. The pleasant grassy path continues easily over the flat top of Cap Law, where we pause briefly to take in the views, but West Kip draws us on. A little height is lost, but soon we are approaching the final rise to West Kip. My progress grinds to a halt at regular intervals during this final assault, and some advantage is taken from the constant tug coming from the lead. West Kip has a remarkably narrow and rocky summit crest, and it's a fine vantage point with enormous views. We find a nice spot for lunch, and then I make an unwelcome discovery. I have left the water bottle back in the fridge in Glasgow. Sorry, Tashy. Looks like I forgot your water.
Oh, come on, you're winding me up, big un. Get some water in my bowl, and pronto.
Sorry, Tashy, there's no water.
What's that you're drinking then, mountain boy? I'll have some of that.
I can't do it, Tashy. Lucozade is full of sugar. It wouldn't be good for you.
I'll be the judge of that, big un. I'm that parched, I couldn't even manage a chicken sandwich. Oh, you greedy big bastard, you've gone and drunk it all.
Sorry, Tashy, couldn't risk it with your brain chemistry.
Well, just so you know, if I snuff it from dehydration on the way down, it's all your fault, mountain boy. Oh, by the way, I'll not be forgetting this water fiasco in a hurry.
On arrival back at the car park, I immediately go in search of a drink for Tashi. A kind lady from one of the nearby cottages fills his bowl. To Tash this must have been nectar from the gods, because he didn't stop lapping for quite some time.
Aye, and whose fault was that?
Scotland lost the quarter-final to Australia, in controversial circumstances it had to be said, but those didn't change the result.